Some plants in your backyard fed native tribes for over 1,000 years. They grew back every spring with no work, no seeds, and lasted decades on a single root. Then settlers, schools, and supermarkets erased them. Today, you'll see all 18 forgotten native plants that fed entire nations, and the dark reason they vanished from American plates. Number 18. Beach plum. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth in 1620, half of them died that first winter. The ones who survived ate something the Wampanoag pulled off the dunes. They were called beach plums. These tart purple fruits grow on stubby coastal shrubs from Maine to Virginia, and one bush keeps making fruit for over 40 years. The Lenape boiled them into thick jam loaded with vitamin C and pectin. So why have you never seen one in a store? The answer is real estate. After World War II, oceanfront mansions wiped out millions of beach plum bushes. By 1980, commercial harvest had crashed to almost zero. But hold on, because the next plant gave Iroquois kids their first taste of green every single spring. Number 17. Solomon's seal. Walk into an Iroquois village in April, and you'd see kids snapping off tender green shoots that taste like asparagus. Those shoots are Solomon's seal. The same plant returns from the same root for over 30 years. The Cherokee dug up the underground roots, roasted them like potatoes, or ground them into bread flour. Settlers ignored the plant for one reason. It takes 7 full years to mature. No plantation farmer would wait that long. So when eastern forests fell to corn and tobacco, Solomon's seal got plowed under by the millions. The plant still hides in Appalachian woods, and almost nobody recognizes it. But strap in, because the next plant started a war between chefs and the people who first ate it. Number 16. Wild ramps. Every April in the 1700s, Cherokee villages threw ramp festivals the moment these wild onions punched through frozen leaves. Ramps were the first green food after a brutal winter, packed with vitamin C and iron, and tribes used them as a blood cleaner after months of dried meat. One ramp patch produces food for decades because the plant comes back from underground bulbs every spring. But the twist is brutal. Each ramp takes 7 years to grow back to harvest size. Now restaurants pay $80 a pound for them, and Appalachian patches are getting wiped clean. Forest rangers in West Virginia recorded sharp drops between 2010 and 2020. So while chefs serve them, ancestral patches die. And the next plant once fed whole Algonquin nations. Number 15. American hazelnut. Long before Nutella, the Ojibwe and Oneida tribes lived off American hazelnuts. Every fall, from Maine to Wisconsin, they roasted these nuts over fires or pounded them into thick nut butter. One shrub produces nuts for over 50 years, and the bushes form thickets that need 0 replanting. Per ounce, American hazelnuts pack more protein than the European hazelnuts in your pantry. So why does Nutella use Turkish hazelnuts instead? The answer comes down to shape. American hazelnuts grow inside frilled husks that machines could not crack. So commercial growers ditched them by 1920. Native shrubs got cleared as weeds. Wisconsin alone lost an estimated 90% of its wild hazelnut belt to cornfields. But the next plant once turned whole Appalachian forests silver every spring. Number 14. Chinquapin. In the fall of 1903, Cherokee kids climbed chinquapin trees just like their grandparents did. These small chestnut trees produced sweet, edible raw nuts every fall for over 60 years per tree. Whole villages stored the nuts in clay pots for winter porridge. Then disaster slammed into the eastern forests. In 1904, a fungal blight from Asia tore through American chestnut and chinquapin populations. Within 3 decades, an estimated 4 billion native chestnut trees died across the eastern United States. The chinquapin survived in tiny pockets, but most modern Americans have never even tasted one. Cherokee elders still remember climbing them as kids in the 1940s. The blight gets the blame, but the real reason is that nobody bothered to replant. And the next route literally saved Lewis and Clark from starvation in the Rockies. Number 13. Yampa. Meriwether Lewis was starving in the Bitterroot Mountains in 1806 when the Salish tribe handed him roots that tasted like sweet carrots. He called Yampa one of the best wild foods of the entire expedition. The Nez Perce and Ute tribes harvested only mature roots and left the young ones to grow back. So the same patches kept feeding families for generations. Yampa grows wild across western prairies from underground tubers year after year. But cattle ranching changed everything. By 1900, herds had trampled and grazed Yampa meadows almost to extinction across Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. The plant still survives in protected mountain spots, but it has lost over 95% of its original range. And the next berry was a Plains tribe survival staple. Number 12. Serviceberry. A Lakota hunter heading out for a long winter trek would pack one essential thing: pemmican loaded with dried serviceberries. Also called Saskatoon, this berry grew from Alaska down to New Mexico, and the Cree, Blackfoot, and Lakota built whole survival systems around it. One bush produces fruit for over 30 years, and the berries pack more iron than blueberries, plus stronger antioxidants. So why does your grocery store ship in blueberries while serviceberries sit forgotten in the wild? The answer is bruising. Serviceberries can't handle long shipping, so big agriculture passed on them by 1950. Canada still grows them as Saskatoons, but the United States quietly buried this plains staple. And the next plant was so valuable, the Lakota planted it on purpose centuries before colonization. Number 11. Wild plum. The Lakota did not just gather wild plums. They planted whole thickets along their seasonal routes, knowing the trees would return ripe fruit for over 40 years. The American wild plum makes small red and yellow fruit packed with vitamin C, and tribes dried them into thick cakes that lasted all winter. The Pawnee, Osage, and Omaha all relied on these plums in late summer. So what wiped them out? European peaches and cherries pushed wild plums out of commercial orchards by 1900. Native trees got dug up like weeds. Worse, when reservations forced tribes off ancestral land, families lost the plum patches their grandparents had tended for centuries. The fruit still grows wild on plains roadsides, and almost nobody picks it. But the next plant survives the harshest desert on Earth. Number 10. Mesquite. The Tohono O'odham have lived off mesquite beans in the Sonoran Desert for over 4,000 years. The tree thrives in 110-degree heat, makes sweet bean pods every summer, and lives up to 75 years on a single root. Tribes ground the pods into a flour with natural caramel sweetness and a low glycemic load that keeps blood sugar stable. So why is mesquite nearly extinct from American kitchens? The answer is cattle ranching. When the federal government pushed ranchers across Arizona in the late 1800s, they cleared mesquite groves to plant grass. Native communities lost ancestral trees. Today, mesquite flower is being studied for managing diabetes, a disease that hits native populations at twice the national rate. But the next plant grew underwater, and Lewis and Clark were too clumsy to figure it out. Number 9. Wapato. In 1805, Lewis and Clark watched Chinook women wade into chest-deep marshes and pull up dinner with their toes. The plant they called Wapato, also known as duck potato, grows underwater from Oregon down to the Mississippi, and one patch produces food for decades because the underwater roots grow back every season. Wapato carries more carbs per ounce than potatoes, and it tastes like a sweet chestnut when roasted. The Chinook traded it to the explorers for metal tools. So why has Wapato vanished from your dinner plate? The answer is massive wetland drainage. Between 1850 and 1980, the United States destroyed over half its wetland acreage for farming. Wapato lost a huge chunk of its habitat. But the next plant became a flu remedy that pharmacies sell for $30 a bottle. Number 8. Elderberry. Cherokee medicine men called the elderberry the tree of medicine, and they were right. Modern science backed them up in 2019 when an Israeli study found elderberry extract cut flu symptoms by an average of 4 days. The dark purple berries are loaded with antiviral compounds. Elderberry shrubs make fruit for over 40 years on the same root, and tribes from the Iroquois to the Pomo cooked the berries into syrups and jams. So how did this end up as a $30 pharmacy bottle? Raw elderberries are mildly toxic, so the berries must be cooked. Commercial farms found this too tricky for mainstream sales by 1950. The shrubs vanished from American yards. Now, supplement companies grow them in Eastern Europe and ship the syrup back. But the next nut tree once dominated entire river valleys. Number 7. Black walnut. Before colonization, black walnut trees lined the Ohio and Mississippi river valleys in massive groves. The Iroquois harvested the rich nuts every fall for porridge, dyes, and medicine. A black walnut tree lives over 200 years and produces nuts for most of that time. Per ounce, the black walnut delivers more omega-3 fatty acids than the milder English walnut now sold in stores. So why did America switch over? The reason was iron-tough shells. Black walnuts take a hammer to crack, so by 1890, commercial growers chose the easier English variety. Native groves got chopped down for furniture wood, since the timber sells for over $15 per board foot today. The harvest culture has died out. And the next nut fed the largest tribes east of the Mississippi. Number 6. Hickory. The Algonquian tribes mashed hickory nuts and boiled them into a thick, creamy drink they called pauco hicora. That word became the modern English word hickory. The Choctaw and Cherokee built winter storerooms around the nut. Hickory trees live over 100 years, drop nuts every fall, and the kernels carry more fat per ounce than almonds, which makes them survival food during freezing winters. So how did hickory disappear from American diets? The answer is pecans. Industrial pecan farms took over by 1920 because pecans had thinner shells and grew faster on plantations. Hickory orchards got abandoned across the South. Hickory nuts still rain down on lawns across 30 states every fall, and almost nobody collects them. But the next tree fruit shocked the very first European settlers in Virginia. Number 5. American persimmon. In 1607, Captain John Smith bit into a fruit the Powhatan called puchaman and wrote in his Jamestown journal that it tasted as sweet as an apricot. That fruit was the American persimmon, native from Connecticut to Texas. The trees produce fruit for over 60 years, and a ripe American persimmon tastes sweeter than dates with a soft custard texture. The Cherokee dried them into winter cakes, and pioneers used them for puddings and breads. So why do you only see Asian persimmons in stores? American persimmons must ripen completely, or they pucker your mouth so hard nobody can swallow them. By 1900, fruit shippers gave up and picked the easier Asian variety. And the next plant is so sacred it has its own creation story. Number 4. Wild rice. The Anishinaabe people, also called the Ojibwe, call wild rice manuman, meaning the food that grows on water. Their entire migration story across the Great Lakes was guided by a sacred prophecy to find this plant. Wild rice grows in shallow lakes across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and one rice bed produces food every year as long as the water stays clean. Per ounce, manuman packs more protein than white rice, plus higher levels of zinc, manganese, and antioxidants. So what is killing it now? The answer is mining. Sulfide pollution from operations near the boundary waters has destroyed thousands of acres since 2000. Climate change is heating the lakes too fast for the rice. The Ojibwe Nation is in active legal battles to save the remaining beds. And the next staple fed the largest pre-colonial population in California. Number 3. Acorns. Before California became Hollywood, It was home to the largest pre-colonial population in North America, partly because of acorns. The Pomo, Miwok, and Yokuts tribes managed oak savannas with controlled burns for over 8,000 years. A single Pomo family ate up to 1 pound of leached acorn flour every day. Oak trees live for over 200 years and drop nuts every fall. The flour delivers complex carbs and minerals that protect the gut. So why is this gone from American kitchens? The cause was boarding schools. When the federal government opened them in the 1880s, Native children got punished for speaking their language and eating ancestral foods. By 1950, fewer than 3% of California Native families still processed acorns. But the next root spread so fast it could feed your family forever. Number 2. Sunchoke. In 1605, French explorer Samuel de Champlain watched a Wampanoag woman dig up a strange tuber on Cape Cod and shipped some back to Europe. Today, we call it the sunchoke, also known as Jerusalem artichoke. This sunflower relative makes edible tubers underground, and once you plant a single bulb, it spreads on its own forever. One patch can feed a family for decades. Per cup, sunchokes deliver about 650 milligrams of potassium, more than a banana, plus inulin fiber that feeds your gut bacteria. Studies show inulin lowers blood sugar in pre-diabetic adults. So why did America forget about it? It came down to branding. Sunchokes got labeled as a peasant food while Europe celebrated them. American shelves stocked white potatoes instead. And the number 1 plant on this list nearly built early America. Number 1. Pawpaw. The pawpaw is the largest edible fruit native to North America, growing wild from New York down to Florida. The Powhatan word asimon became its scientific name, Asimina triloba, in 1612. George Washington loved them. Thomas Jefferson planted them at Monticello. Lewis and Clark survived the autumn of 1806 by living on pawpaws when their food ran out near the Missouri River. The fruit tastes like a mango crossed with banana custard, and it carries 35% of your daily vitamin C plus papain enzymes that support digestion. Pawpaw trees produce fruit for over 30 years. So why does no one eat them? Pawpaws bruise within 3 days of picking. After refrigerated trucks took over by the 1940s, every grocery chain dropped them. But chefs in Ohio and Kentucky are bringing the largest native fruit in America back, one bite at a time. These 18 plants kept families alive through brutal winters for over 1,000 years. The seeds and roots are still out there in the wild, waiting for someone to bring them home.